Well, I'm foreign. Well, foreign local, but everybody calls me foreign. How did I get into music? Music production. Basically, I always had like kind of a music thing going on in my life. I played soccer. I played a lot of sports, and on the soccer pitch, everybody would just tell me that like I'm dancing around rather than actually doing what I'm supposed to do. So I always had this thing for rhythm. I didn't really get into playing any instruments when I was a child, just because, you know, I don't know, growing up as a single child, you get to just start and stop whatever you want, kind of. So that's what I did. You shouldn't do that. And yeah, at some point, I believe shortly before I moved to Ghana, by the way, I was born in Germany, and I'm half Ghanaian and half German. So shortly before I moved to Ghana, I started looking for something that I can do apart from playing computer games. That was one of my passions back then. So a friend of mine got a MIDI keyboard, and since I was leaving, he basically lent it to me and then showed me a couple of softwares that I can work with. And the first software was Reason. So I played around with that a little bit, and I believe that was, let's say, around 2009. And since I always had a thing for rhythm, it just stuck with me. That's what I did on my off time. Instead of playing computer games, you get me? It was basically the same thing for me. I was always like a computer-drawn child. So yeah, production just seemed to fit in there. Well, I started with Reason. To be honest, at that time it was the easiest one to crack. So yeah, I had access to it. At that age, paying $700 odd wasn't possible. Nowadays, there are student versions, so you should rather get that than do cracks or get the cracked versions. But yeah, I mean, I had access to that, so it was quite difficult because it's very studio-like. With Reason, you actually can turn around most of the plugins, and then you have your racks, and you can like combine the sounds like in a patch bay, how you would do it in a professional recording studio. So that really got me an in-depth look into, okay, what actually goes on, like even in a studio setting, but in my small little computer. So yeah, like after that, I went on to meeting a friend actually here in Ghana who was here for volunteering. He was also into production. It was a very odd meeting, but he was using Fruity Loops. I never got into Fruity Loops. I'll be totally honest. I don't know. Fruity Loops never convinced me. Everybody says Fruity Loops is really easy. I find it so confusing. Like without even, I mean, More Sound did a lot of things on Fruity Loops when he came here, so I had a little bit of a more in-depth look into it, and I guess with my audio engineering background, I understand it better, but it's just not something that I ever got into. And then, so I basically went from Reason to dabbling in Fruity Loops a little bit, to using Pro Tools as my main DAW, and then feeding in different plugins in order to create like sounds and just recording MIDI in Pro Tools. To then getting a Maschine controller, the software comes with it, and that was it for me. I had everything basically in one. I can sample in it. I can program my MIDIs if I want to do it with the mouse. I can tap it in on the pad. I'm more comfortable with the pad than with the keyboard, just because of the response. I like hitting on the thing a lot. And if I do that with a keyboard, I will have to buy another one very soon. That's why there's none around right now, because that's what I did. Yeah, and you can already start kind of pre-mixing. There's like a pre-mixing stage for me in Maschine. Because you have the mixer options, you can send different things through aux. You can, I mean, on every sound, you have the option to load more plugins. So you can load your reverb just to change the sound. I mean, every sound that we use was created by somebody. I don't like using the original. I like tweaking around a little bit, even if it's just putting a flanger or a phaser on it, just to, you get me. I understand what the person, okay, but I would already jump too fast if I'm not going into that, if I'm saying that. I was coming to say that for me, music is very emotional. I work with sounds rather than like having a serious structure about it. It's more of I have the access to different sounds. I'm hearing a sound, and I feel like, okay, that sound can be patterned in a certain way that it'll be dope. Yeah. As for synths, I would definitely say, I mean, Omnisphere is the newest one that I got in this setting. And like it just gives me a lot of sounds, and they are mostly sample based, and the samples are very high quality samples. I mean, you can have a piano sound, and the sample that is the sound, how should I say it? The sample is 1 gig alone, just for a piano sample. So yeah, I mean, it really gives you that original sound, and you can play around a lot in Omnisphere as well. Apart from that, Nexus most definitely is one of the go-to synths in production, in the production stage. As for reverbs, I like something called Valhalla Verb or Valhalla Reverb. I don't even know how I got onto it, but I don't know, the depth of it, and like it's very easy for me to play around with it and to really feel like different spaces. Yeah. What I have is the vintage verb and then the shimmer. I like using the shimmer on like spacey vocals, I guess you can say. And I like using, I mean, the vintage for everything else, basically. I'll put that on a lot of synths. In the drum section, you might find it, but, you know. There's something called H delay. I like that one a lot. It's very simple and very quick to work around with it. What's it called? The visual of it. How do you call it? The interface. Exactly. The interface is very appealing to me. I mean, I can work around with the feedback really easily and just, you know, see what I can get in there.